there's more to just like, I want to look good. It's actually like, oh no, I want to live well for as long as possible.
Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in for the first Optimal podcast. We got another great episode for all of you out there. So, Alejandra Ruff is joining us. She is a longevity health coach, specializing in a couple different areas, but we'll get into it all today, from overall health, longevity, go deep for good practices, signs of things to be on the lookout for. And also, just recently, Alejandra was telling us before we started doing this recording, just some different memory and recall kind of tools or activities that she'll do, which is definitely something that I'm interested to get into, because it's something I know very little to nothing about. So I'm sure I'll have some fun questions for you, Alejandra. But thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Good stuff. So I think, for the audience out there too, I know a little more about you, but I think for those who maybe don't, you've had an interesting journey into this space. So you started in pharmaceutical sales and now doing what you do. I'm just wondering, to kind of unpack that a little bit. What was that journey like, and bringing you to what you're doing today?
Yeah, so I started my career in durable medical equipment actually first. And it all plays a part into how I'm here. And I actually had no plans to do this. It's kind of cool how it's all actually unpacked. But durable medical equipment sales, I used to sell oxygen supplies, hospital beds, wheelchairs. And so I worked a lot with nursing homes, hospice departments, and hospitals. And so I really saw what the end of life looked like when we don't take care of ourselves, when we don't take care of our nutrition, when we don't exercise, when we don't sleep. And then from there, I switched over to pharmaceutical sales, where I worked a lot with chronic eye disease. So I did really do so much with chronic disease, and then what that looks like. And so, in how, cytokines and inflammation works in our body, and then what the side of life looks like when you take a lot of pharmaceutical pills, right? And even though they definitely play a role in our lives, I just saw like, okay, this is what the end of life looks like with medication and then actual like devices to help you. And in my mind, I was like, there's just no way this is where we all end up.
Right.
And then I started to see other people who are just incredibly healthy, well into their 90s. And so I saw that there was a huge disconnect. And then I actually got pregnant with my first son. And when that happened, I started to realize like, wow, everything that we put into our bodies, not just like food wise, but in our environment, is what will become this child, and how I want to play a role into his life and as a mother, and how long I want to live. And so then I got into integrative nutrition health coaching, which then has led me to longevity, and women especially, because we're so different than men. We work on a 30-day cycle and men work on a 24-hour cycle. Our stress
Right.
is different. Everything is different. And so that's kind of how I got into longevity health coaching.
No, when you say that, it's really interesting to have that view. I think, obviously those of us, although unfortunate, right? Like if you're around a loved one when they're going through those later stages in life, it can be a little bit of an eye opener, maybe a big eye opener. But for some, once you're emerged in more that type of care, I would imagine it's a constant reminder, as you said it. Is this really where we're headed? And when you were talking about that, like I had a little different experience in a different phase in life, but I remember my late teens, early 20s. And my dad, worked very hard to provide for our family, but he was, blue collar kind of shop worker, et cetera. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I recall meeting with a group, there just happened to be a group of kind of guys that were there, and they were well-intended, good men trying to provide for their families, but they were so unhealthy, and they're in like their mid 40s, and they all look like they're in their 70s. They all smoked and,
Mhm.
just recreational drinking and kind
Yeah.
of those type of things. And so I remember that stage saying like, I definitely like want to avoid that. And I was fortunate that made that connection young to where I didn't have some of the same struggles other people in my family had with um, alcohol or different things. But that was kind of my experience. Was a little bit younger, but it sounds like yours was kind of that later life, and then reversing it all the way down to when you had your son, what you're describing there. So I just find some of those like moments of reflection of life really interesting, and I think when people dive into that a little bit more and then turn it into being a practitioner in that space to avoid some of those things, it's even that much more impactful. It's one of the reasons why I originally got into more like exercise science and nutrition. But I appreciate you sharing that. So I was just kind of reflecting as you were saying that a little bit of my experiences as well. So as you were transitioning out of pharmaceutical sales and kind of out of that mindset, like what was your first introduction to more of what you're doing now relative to health coaching and longevity practices?
So it's actually a personal story as well because, and I love that you share that with me because I did see that too. And like part that played in the role for me as well as seeing my family members because there was a lot of alcohol involved and, smoking cigarettes and all of that. But for me, it was actually before I did get pregnant, I started a journey of self-help because I found myself being on a lot of medication myself. I
Mm,
was on antidepressant, I was on Xanax, I took Adderall, I took a lot of medication. And I do remember, I'm just so grateful that there was an intervention before I did decide, like I met my husband and we got pregnant, that I was just like, I just woke up one day and I'm like, I can't wake up every single day looking for the thrill of the next party. And why am I on so many medications? So it was like all playing a role in the background as well. And I couldn't survive without like 300 milligrams of coffee. I barely cooked any food for myself. And it started to become, it's like the little nudges I call from like God or whoever you believe in. I started to like stumble upon um, there's this, I always remember, it's called A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Is a book. And I read that book and then it led me to Gabby Bernstein, another like self-help spiritual person in that arena that used to be very popular. And then started to then drop the medications and started to see like, hey, I'm self-sabotaging over here. I'm the one playing a role in all of this. And so the healing that I made for myself, how I went from, I would say, a rock bottom of just looking for the next thrill, the next party, being on so many different medications, not knowing how to take care of myself, to then slowly become the woman that I am today. I started to see, hey, like there's so many women that I know in my life and that I have seen that actually have no idea just how much lifestyle and nutrition have a role in how they feel. And so it's been a slow progression into that. And the more obviously I've gone into it, and then I did go into the nutrition school and I did started health coaching here and there and just seeing family members and friends and meeting so many clients, I started to see like, wow, just like even though it's 2025, there's still so many people that are so unaware of their habits and how that plays a role into how they're feeling. So it just keeps fueling me to get out there. And I'm starting to just see even more and becoming a mom too. Like you meet so many mothers along the way.
yeah.
And for me, what has fueled me the most too is just helping. Now I'm helping a lot of women in their 50s and beyond because they're really starting to see like, oh, like we're getting to those later stages of life. Like they're starting to really feel it. And then also just mothers because what their habits and what they eat and what they do is what their children will become, right? And I have seen it with my own children as well. It's just like teaching them all about this and nutrition and lifestyle, and just like how they're thriving as well. And like, I didn't get to thrive that way when I was younger. So I just feel like it's professional and personal, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm curious when you're going through this journey and you're looking at, feeding your child and the foods and the things that you're trying to guard against, right? To make sure they're having some healthy things. I'm curious, like when the women come in that have children, what are some common maybe myths or misunderstandings that either you had or other women you're working with have when it comes to, family health related to nutrition? Are there any topics that come to mind?
So I would say like the thing that I've seen the most that is, I think the biggest myth is that, oh, when you're younger, they're fine. Your
Mm,
metabolism is so
don't burn
great.
it. Yeah,
Everything's fine. Like think about, and I hear this all the time, we survived, right?
right,
But then it's like, we survived, we weren't thriving, right? Like
right,
that's like where I think people get it kind of mixed up, where it's like, right, but then there were so many, like I think about like my childhood, or I hear about other children too, and I can't say for certain, but there's so many things that I think children would probably just be better offset when they do eat better, right?
right.
And even as mothers, for us to keep up with our really intense lives and like these years of like, especially if let's say you are working or you're not even working, like you're staying at home, like that's really hard as well. But like in order, like I get it, we have to survive, we have to like feed it like constantly and feed ourselves and take care of other people. But it's like, I think if we understood that if we ate better, we would be able to keep up with life better.
Yeah, what does that look like in your world when you're working with a client? Like if we take, you have people that are looking for more of a sustainable lifestyle shift versus like short-term diet fixes, like what would be maybe some examples of some general applications you'll put in that are more lifestyle? Like, hey, these are things we should have that are missing in your routine diet with you and your family or for themselves. Like, what are some things that come to mind out there that you're seeing a lot with women when you specifically when you started getting to the nutrition practice?
Yeah, so nutrition wise, I would say it's prioritizing eating at home, because that's convenience is what most parents rely on, right? Because life
Mhm.
is so busy, we don't have time. Yet, if we found a way, we always have time, we just need to prioritize it, right? So it's like if we found ways to actually prioritize eating more at home, eating more fiber, just adding more fruits and vegetables, more whole foods. You probably know this, right? Like just adding more whole foods into our diets. And I know sometimes it's hard when it comes to like fast food and convenience, like I just mentioned, but having also those conversations with your children, because then it also becomes like a battle. Because then I do see lots and so many parents are like, yeah, but my child won't eat any of the food that we make. So then it just becomes like a battle. And I'm just like, yes, yes, 100%. And they've been, they're learning, right? It's like there's learned behavior that obviously can actually be reversed. You just have to make sure that you learn how to set boundaries in place. And so, yeah, I would say with that, right? It's like prioritizing eating at home, prioritizing like eating as a family, and exposure, because we think that once that if they eat something that they don't like, they're never going to eat it again. And what I say to my children, it's also like the mindset. I'm always telling them, I'm like, oh, you're learning to like it. It's not that you don't like it, you're learning to like it. Sometimes it takes like 30 different exposures for them to even actually try it.
Yeah, and with no, that's interesting. So you're the frequency of exposure, is that something that you work into your plans with some of the women you're coaching? Is that something that you're giving suggestions of how to introduce different foods to their children, or is that separate, or how does that look?
Yeah, I would say for themselves and for their children, because if I am working with a mom, it's definitely like it's a family plan. It's not just for them. So exposure 100%. And even with them, like, let's say I'm introducing them to sardines, because that's like a really big longevity food. It's like studied all across the world. It helps us live longer. It's just something like they're like, well, I don't like it. And it's like, yes, absolutely. Let's just like slowly introduce it into our diets. You know what I mean? It's like, instead of saying we don't like it, let's just learn to like different foods, because our taste buds are completely, they just need to be introduced to foods, you know?
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of your content and or food sources, you're looking at different research that's published on, these dietary habits, if you will, or these foods, will help add years to your life and things of that nature. Can you talk a little more about your go-tos for longevity eating and why? Like maybe we'd start with like sardines or salmon. Why is that a good source? And then what are some of your other go-tos that are your typically kind of cornerstones that you're trying to work into someone's eating habits or eating routines?
Yeah. So I would say the biggest one, before we talked about the other ones, is and I talk about this on Instagram a lot and Facebook, but 2 kiwis a day. So women, and in general, Americans are not getting enough fiber. We
Yep.
do prioritize the high protein diet, which I do think is incredibly important, obviously, especially for women, like a high protein breakfast, or even when you're like in the luteal phase of your cycle, your menstrual bleeding phase, high protein is so important. But I do think that fiber gets forgotten along the way. But I do think people are picking up on that. I do see like all the reels now coming out, like high protein, high fiber. But 2 kiwis is like one of the easiest ways with the skin. I know that's another thing that we're talking about, exposure. People are like, I don't eat kiwi with the skin. Like, they're not used to it. It's fuzzy, it's different.
Mm.
But it's where the extra nutrients are, right? So I say, if there's something that you're trying to track, I do think high protein is important, but start to track your fiber, because if you think about it, and there's so many women I've talked to, they're just like, they don't even want to tell me how much fiber they're actually eating, because they're like, oh, now that I've started to pay attention, yeah, I am kind of missing my fiber intake. And so I think learning which foods that you like to enhance your fiber intake is important. Leafy greens, of course. Smoothies are a great way to do that, because then you can just add a couple of dates to sweeten it up, right? I don't stay away, like when it comes to nutrition, from, and I know I've seen people are like, oh, low carb or no sugar from like fruit. I'm like, no, if it's whole foods and it comes from the ground, eat it. Like, especially when it comes to carbohydrates, there's so many people that will eat salads all day long, and then they're like, why do I crave so many sweets after? And I'm like, well, then maybe try a complex carbohydrate, and then you probably won't, right? So lots of fiber. Kiwis, I think, are important. Chia seeds are a great way to get your fiber and omega-3s. I Like I just mentioned, leafy greens are important. And then eat the rainbow. Like, try to, every single week, what I tell my clients is try something new, like a new vegetable that you otherwise would never eat, and then make it fun. Find a new recipe that you think you would like, right? Like rainbow Swiss chard is a great one, because not only is it a leafy green, but it has different colors. And bok choy, different sources of protein, as you know. And I do think adding more plant-based protein is important as well, because as you probably have seen in like the blue zones, plant-based is super important, just as much as like grass-fed meat. But I do believe in definitely balancing it out, not in a high carnivore diet. That's for me personally, and what I recommend for the women that I coach. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think.
Well, I was going to ask a follow-up question of fiber. What typically, like, where do you usually see women coming in starting at? Like, how much, when they do track it, how much fiber is the average client coming in consuming per day? And then what is like a target you like to try to get them to?
I see 5 to 15 grams a day, which is pretty typical. I usually like to say 30 to 50 grams a day.
Yeah.
So it's missing a lot. Um, it's hard. It's hard, and I get it. I absolutely get it, especially like if it's not something that you were taught. Like another thing that I've seen a lot is that it comes from like how we ate in our childhood. That's why I think it's so important for mothers to start now, especially with their children, so that they can thrive as they become adults. But so yeah, I try to get them to 30 to 50 grams.
Yeah, and just for the audience out there too, right? Because you mentioned kiwi, that's generally about 2 grams per. It just says like one fruit. Is kind of some of the measurements I have, but also you were mentioning um, like the different variations of different seeds, like on average, a couple tablespoons of like a chai seed or whatever is, going to be anywhere from approximately like 10 to 12 grams of fiber. So that it's doable to get it in there. It's just kind of working in those food sources and layering them into their diet. But just to circle back to kiwi specifically, because you brought that up, and I noticed in your content, is that just a food you personally like more, like the taste and it easy to mix in, or were there other benefits why you lean in more on kiwi specifically? Just curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, there's just been a lot of research behind it. It has so much vitamin C, so much folate, so much fiber. So it's like this little tiny superfood that I think goes under the radar, and most people just don't understand like the incredible benefits from it. So it's not only just helping you with your fiber intake, it's also helping you with your immune system. And actually, Mel Robbins, it's kind of fun. I've been seeing her podcast. She's had so many doctors come in and talk about like how amazing kiwis are. So it's cool to see how, and it's so good for your skin. It's just so good for like so many different parts of your body, which is what we kind of want to do, right? We want to eat foods that are benefiting a vast range of our overall health. And so we can live well for longer.
No, that makes sense. And I know we're painting with a broad brush here, but just looking at, we're talking about women having children, maybe a little bit earlier in life. But you also reference, 50, 60, 70, kind of those chapters of life that you're seeing clients in. I'm curious to know any differences in nutrition gaps based on, 30, 35, 40-year-old mom versus, 60, 70-year-old woman coming to you, kids are grown and gone. Like, what are some gaps maybe they have? Are there differences there in the nutrition uh, opportunities that you see, or are there different, suggestions, recommendations you're making there?
Yeah, so I actually do. The difference that I see is that later on in life, we rely less on convenience, which is really exciting to see because these women, right? Their kids are grown, they're mostly working, and they have way more time for themselves. So they do find themselves learning the reason why they should probably cook more at home. They're growing gardens. I do see that, which I think is incredibly just like exciting. It gives us hope, right? Because then we're just relying less on that. But then I do see the women who their whole lives have relied on fast food and convenience, and it's still there. It still lingers for a little bit, but I do believe that as we get older and the women that do come to me are very motivated to get in shape. They do have the time to realize like, okay, my body is a temple. I do want to live longer. I do want to see my grandchildren grow up. So I do see that. But then I do see like, we're all different. And then there's some that are still lingering and they can't let go of, the sugar and the things that are just really hard habits to kick. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and you're mentioning like in some of your content, you have some information about and just here's some signs that you might be aging faster than you should be. Just curious, can you walk through? I know you had some different, 6 signs, five. There's different posts you have. Can you walk through some of those signs just for those listening, if they might want to do some evaluation if they're experiencing some of these things?
Yes, I would say chronic fatigue. And a lot of women come to me, they're like, this is so closely related to perimenopause. At the same time, there are things we can do to not have those intense perimenopause signs and symptoms, right? But I think chronic fatigue it's a huge one. Many people deal with it and they think it's so normal because we've been taught to be that way, right? We're taught to like grind it out, drink more coffee, like do more, be more. So chronic fatigue, I see sleep disturbances. A lot of people don't realize how much their sleep is being affected and how they're not actually getting good sleep, especially like, let's say you're not into like the Aura ring or, that's not something you want to do. Like you're not tracking your sleep. You're not actually seeing like, why am I waking up? It's like a cycle, right? Like you're not sleeping well and then you're chronically fatigued the next day. Constant headaches, extra belly weight. And so I think those are probably like the major signs that I do see most women are seeing. And just like any sort of inflammation in the body, pain, if you're having chronic pain, or if, especially like women who are still having their menstrual cycles and they are experiencing extreme irritability, especially during the luteal phase, they're in so much pain that they have to take off work or they have to take painkillers. There's just so many little signs, and I call it the body whispers. It's like your body is constantly whispering to you,
Yeah.
but we're so taught to just ignore it or take Tylenol or, drink the coffee, whatever it is, or take, I know a lot of women will take, some sort of sleeping aid to then try to catch up on sleep, but then that's actually not helping them restore at night.
Yeah, and because one of the things you talk about too is like skin, right? Like skin being dull, dry, like unexplained breakouts. What are you seeing with clients coming in? One, I think just for those out there, like that could be a sign to pause and say, okay, like, yeah, I put the stuff on, whether it's the makeup, the moisturizer, the acne treatment, etc. But it's like, yeah, I'm at this stage in life. I probably shouldn't be experiencing that. It might be a reason for
Yeah.
pause to kind of reflect on it. What are you seeing if women are presenting those type of symptoms with their skin? What's generally are you associating that with that you're seeing? I mean, I know it's kind of anecdotal, but what are you seeing with clients that help them with overall like skin health?
Okay, I'm so happy you brought that up because that is one of the things that we go to our OBGYN or our primary physician, they'll be like, oh, it's just adult acne, for example. I would associate that with, okay, what's going on? Oh, and another one, I probably have missed a lot of the signs. There's so many, like bloating is another huge one.
Mhm.
With your gut, how is your gut? Like, how is the gut or the health of your gut? Because what's going on inside, it's going to show up on our skin. Our skin, we can do all of the treatments, right? There's so many treatments we can go to the med spa for, get the most expensive moisturizers and the most expensive retinols and all of the things which do help, but what's going on inside will always show up outside. And skin is our largest organ, right? So I would say that's another link to, okay, let's look at our guts. How much fiber are you eating, right? Are you having those signs and symptoms that can be showing up from a leaky gut? And bloating is another one that I hear, and I know so many people find it just normal, and then they take a supplement because there's so many supplements out there for
Right.
bloating. But your stomach shouldn't be bloating, after every single time you eat. So it all leads to how's your gut? And then that also leads to the immune system. Like, are you constantly getting sick? There's so many body whispers, signs and symptoms. I don't even probably touch on half of it on my Instagram.
Sure. Well, and I think you mentioned like supplements and gut health. Like I do see that a lot where people, are either their acceptance is probably too high of bloat discomfort. They're just like, like I know I was one of those people all the way up till probably my mid 30s.
Oh, really?
And oh yeah, like as far as like mainly it was like I found out when I did some reflection, I didn't have a lot of gluten in my diet, so it just naturally was based on the food sources I chose. It wasn't intentional. So when I would have it, whenever I do some kind of social event, or it was like, oh, we're gonna have a little bit of pizza, and I don't drink that much, but let's say I had, a beer, which I haven't had in 15 years probably, and I would just be like in crippling pain and
Wow.
all this upsetness. And I was, and until I met my wife, was like, that's not normal. I'm like, what do you mean? And I knew quite a bit. I don't know why my brain blocked it. Like, oh, I'm just a guy and that's just the way it is. And, I
Right.
found out I had some different sensitivities, and then my gut microbiome, I had some dysbiosis, like just imbalance between
Mhm.
some of the bacteria. And it was like, oh, like, and they were all things. There's certainly different interventions that like at our clinic we use that are work very, very well, high safety efficacy. But everything I did back then even was just naturally changing things over time. It took a little longer than if I probably would have had access to the interventions I do now, but it was
Right.
still pretty easy to fix. I just had to be more intentional. And I
Mhm.
think, that's kind of what I see a lot of, and I'm sure you do as well. Because one of the things you've mentioned on a few times now is fiber. So I'm just for those out there, can you kind of talk a little bit about how does fiber help the gut? How does it, what does it do as far as overall gut health and working against bloat and those type of things? Because a lot of people will take fiber supplements and they feel more bloated at first.
Yes, no, absolutely. So, like you mentioned, dysbiosis, right? So, it's about helping your gut, like the permeant lining, to not be, I guess, to put it in terms like broken where there's like leakage, and then to make it stronger, to create more good bacteria so that when you are eating foods, it's being able to be digested. And I know there's I recently saw somebody talk about this, like a medical doctor, talk about how soluble fiber from fruit alone can just help with inflammation too. So it's about, to just like leave it like in simple terms, it's about creating good bacteria so that you are able to digest food the way that you are supposed to. And so, preventing the bloating, preventing the inflammation, preventing like those little body whispers that your body is just begging for you to listen to.
Yeah, and it's because there's a lot of you were mentioning earlier, like as far as like protein and fiber, and just from a lot of the health experts I had the opportunity to interview, and just anecdotal kind of interactions. I notice with women, it seems to be, protein first, then fiber, then water, sometimes in a different order, but those are usually the three that they're the most deficient in. I'm sure there's some nuance there that, but generally speaking, so I think like I just talking to friends and family, I'll tell them, well, first off, like hire a coach, work with someone, because
Yep.
then for the rest of your life, you'll know what they teach you. Like hire a coach with the
Yes.
heart of a teacher. So like if they're just giving you something and not telling you why, that's probably, from my perspective, I would encourage people to work with a coach that enjoys teaching you why. So that for the rest of your life, A, but B, start with just track your protein for a week or two, and then track your fiber for a week or two. And just the self-awareness will naturally improve. And then bring a professional like yourself in to kind of map that out, because there's so many nuances and little things they don't think about. And I walk away from every episode with at least 3 to 5 things that I can apply. Some of them I still haven't done and need to, but
We're
because it
not perfect, right?
keeps compounding, but I'm like, oh, I'm gonna write that down, so but it's all good stuff. And especially when you can associate the foods and or activities with the way you feel, that's when it starts to be really impactful. Because I think a lot of people, they just don't experience that, or like I was saying earlier, they just have this higher tolerance of, they don't realize what garbage feels like. They're just like, well, I know what garbage feels like if I'm like hungover and it's really extreme, but it's like, yeah, but every day when you feel that difference, it's just, oh, this is how I'm supposed to feel. This is interesting.
Right.
So
Right. Like, oh, actually, I don't have to wake up this way. That's pretty cool. And so funny you mentioned the water intake. It's so true. That's another one that I work on a lot, that I get pushed back on, is the water before coffee. I'm sure you've seen that too, right?
oh yeah. So is that something, a tip? Can you expand on that a little bit more? Like what do you, is that a tip you're generally doing as far as
Yeah.
the,
So, like, so many women are reaching, and so many of us, not just women, right? Reaching for coffee first thing in the morning. Like, we wake up, we're in this cycle, we're not sleeping very well, we're not sleeping enough, then we're so chronically tired. So the first thing we reach for is coffee. Like, this is how I'm going to make it through my day, when there's actually so many things you can do in the morning to then help you feel even better. Like, it's like, and that's where I get the pushback, because they're like, how am I going to start my day without my coffee right away? But
Yeah.
it's like, if you push past that, because it's also mentality, it's like you've already trained your brain to want to have to need that coffee first thing in the morning, when in reality your body, what it needs is water. Maybe squeeze a little bit of lemon, put a little bit of salt, right? Like, give your body what it needs to replenish after a long night of hopefully restoring as much as it could and can, and delaying it a little bit longer. And so, because your body has natural cortisol in the morning, especially for women, so usually between 8 and 9. So, and that's another thing that I work on with my women a lot, is like our stress, our parasympathetic nervous system, how to bring it down. Because the more we bring it down, like, right, like we calm ourselves, like the more we can actually do, the better we feel. Because sometimes, like, people will say, but I eat all the right things. I eat all the fiber, I eat all the protein, I exercise, but I still have this. Or they have unexplained headaches. That's another one I've seen. It's a very popular one. They have these unexplained headaches. They literally go to neurologists. They just don't have an explanation as to why they're having these headaches. And it's like, probably because you're on fight or flight constantly, and
Mm.
your body hasn't had the time to restore. And there's like the emotional, I mean, there's another component, right? Like the emotional trauma that we keep stored in our bodies, and then it shows up as like unexplained symptoms. But yeah, sorry, I went to a tangent from
No,
water in the morning.
that's what it's
But
all about. Just
just
go on the tangent.
water in the morning, I would say, to replenish your body. We need as much as our body weight, I would say, of water. You can never have enough, but and then give it a little bit of electrolytes in the morning. It doesn't need to be from a packet or a supplement. It can just be from just beautiful, like, make it a little ritual. So then the longer you delay the caffeine, like the less then you become dependent on it. And then you probably drink less of it during the day instead of the 300 to 400 milligrams a day.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. If you can kind of have those little stops, and I think like, to put a term to it, right? I found that different, like, anchoring, if you will, turns into a hack. Like, I can have the thing I want once I do this first, just this little
Yes,
bit. Like you're saying, can you start with 4 ounces of water first? Like, maybe it's not 12 or whatever the amount is, but maybe start with 2 to 4. Like, just
right.
little, just give us take a
Give it a
shot of
shot.
water, do a shot of water. Like, come on,
Yeah,
live a little, just do a shot of water.
just give it a little, right?
Use it with some lemon and, whatever. No, but I think if people just start to do, the habit first, at least what I've seen out there and found is, if you start anchoring it with like some habits around things you like, the compound effect just really helps, throughout the day. Like, one of the most simplistic, natural remedies, if you will, that I try to encourage the people is like, what is your movement like after a meal? Because I know me, like mine is, unless I'm intentional, it's terrible. And I'm sure, like a lot of us, even I talk to health practitioners, people I respect, very, very brilliant people, and they're like, "Oh, I'll eat at my desk and then just keep going." And it's like, just
Mhm.
even like, yes, all the studies will show a 10-minute walk, 10-minute walk, 10-minute, 10-minute, 10-minute. But even if you did 3 to 5 minutes, like, start somewhere, and you'll start to kind of see the effects. But that's one of my favorite little hacks, is just like a walk and movement. Sometimes it can drive my wife and daughters nuts because I like to move after when we're out to dinner. I'm like, I got to move. But at this point now, they've realized that that's just dad, and then they started to follow me a little bit more. So, but
I
I think
love
there's a lot of easy little things to anchor and add into one's routine.
100%. And I think I love that, just like becoming aware of that, because it is so easy to just eat on our computers, and we're like, okay, we got to do more. And like, we don't realize that we're just like scarfing down more food. We're not chewing our food. But yeah, just becoming intentional, like you're mentioning, just like, what does your day to day look like? Because, and I hear this all the time, you're like, I'm doing all the right things, and I still can't lose the weight. I'm like, let's pay attention to all of our like every single habit. Like, let's write it down. Like, there's something there, right? Like, that's
Right.
why the weight is not budging. And of course, hormones can play a role into that. I'm not saying that, paying attention to our habits will fix everything, but It's so true. Just like small little tiny habits can definitely compound over time. And then you'll start to feel them and be like, oh, I need a little bit more of this. And then it becomes like, I cannot not do this anymore.
Right, right. No, it's true. Well, I did want to transition because you started talking a little bit about like headaches, stress. I know brain health is an area you've been doing more coaching recently on,
Mhm.
um, memorization techniques, things like that. Can you just give us a little bit of an introduction to what you do, how you do it, all the good stuff? Maybe we can get into some specific tips and such for those listening out there.
Yes. Okay. So this is something that I'm so excited about because it is new, but it makes sense because I do coach women on longevity. Obviously, our brain health is just as important because so many women have seen or are seeing that they have family members who have dementia and Alzheimer's, and that it's a really, really hard on them. Like seeing somebody like their mother or grandmother or anybody that has it, once you see that, you can't unsee it. And so I've been doing a lot of brain enhancement coaching. It's a very short, it's like a 40-minute coaching session. And because our brains are working so hard, we don't want to overdo it. But it's a lot about like creating new neural pathways because a lot
Mm,
of our brains are just on autopilot and we're not we're not working it enough to then just kind of slow the progression of dementia or Alzheimer's. I know the studies show that exercise can actually prevent or slow the prevent and slow the prevent. I'm sorry, I keep saying slow the prevention, slow the progression, not prevention
gotcha.
of it. Exercise obviously is huge for it, but then there's also other things we can do, like how to do memory games. We do a lot of that, which is really fun. And like the more I've been coaching, actually, I've been noticing like how, because a lot of women will have like they'll start to lose words mid sentence or when they're giving presentations or when they're talking. And the more I do it, I'm starting to see how my word recall has gotten better and their word recall has gotten better. We'll do a lot of like the hand brain games. You probably have seen me on Instagram do. That just like really fires up like new neural pathways. We're breaking up our brain from being on autopilot. We're working our prefrontal cortex.
With those, if I could jump in there, like let's talk about like the activities, like the hand what did you call them? Were they hand signaling or
And brain activities.
hand brain activities? Thank you. So what is the application there? Is it I'm about to give a presentation? Is it just you're kind of doing them in a routine habit daily? Is it acutely? Like how does I know I'm generalizing, but how does one work that in? And then I'd love to maybe do a couple for
Yes.
those on audio. You'll have to we'll have it in the show notes. You'll have to check out her Instagram, but at least we can show a few of them today. But what does that look like application wise? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so you can just do them like 2 to 3 minutes a day. Do them wherever. Like when you wake up in the morning, you can do them when instead of scrolling. This is like what I say, instead of scrolling, like doom scrolling, maybe at night, start to do some of this. Or I also like the little homeworks I give, or like, take a different like route, like switch up your routine. Like take a different route to work or a different route home, a different way home. But these hand brain activities, I would just do them whenever you want to. Like instead of, I'm trying to get people to stop being on their phones so much.
Yeah.
And so, because not only does it help, obviously, like with our lives in general, but also with stress. And like the more we reduce stress, like the better our cognitive health is too. So yeah, you can just do them whenever,
Anytime.
honestly. It's like 2 to 3 minutes a day. Yeah, it's actually kind of fun to see. So like I'll show you some now.
Yeah, perfect.
I know this one's like the hardest one that most people have a time with. So you
I'll give
do
it a
like,
try.
yeah, that's like the piece
This
or rock on
rock
and
on.
then hang 10 with your other one.
Let me get in the camera.
Okay. And now switch it.
Oh, did I do it wrong?
Yeah. So the hang 10 one, it's gonna face you. Okay, now you
Oh,
gotta switch that one to rock on, and then you gotta switch the other one to hang 10.
oh wow. Wow. Like that? Did I do it right?
Yes, and now bring your thumb to like the rock on.
Oh,
Yeah,
there we go. Okay.
and then you switch it back. So then the
Oh my
hang 10
gosh.
becomes rock on, and then that
This
one becomes hang
becomes
10.
this becomes wait, hang 10.
Yep, and
And
that
this
one becomes rock on.
how the heck do I now I can't even remember how to do it. I need a cheat sheet. I'm okay, I need to hire you because clearly my brain doesn't work.
So yeah, and then bring the
Switch.
thumb in, and then you just switch.
Oh man,
I
that's
know, it's tricky, right? And our brains need to be like challenged more. And the more we use AI, we're working our brains less. So I think it's
yes.
becoming just so much more important nowadays.
Okay. That's a good one. I'm definitely have to work on
You're
that.
like, okay, I'm
I failed. I don't think because how long would you do that for?
I would say like 1 to 2 minutes.
1
And
to 2
then you will
minutes.
start to see like, okay, like I'm starting to get fatigued.
Boom.
My brain's
Boom. Okay. All right. Yeah, I fail, but I'll work on it definitely. I got like 10 seconds in.
it's okay. Slow is good. Slow and
Well, I will
steady.
say like and I wanna get to a couple more, but I we had like they called them one of the companies I was at, they called them like mind coaching they did, and one of the things was there was some hand a little bit of hand stuff, but it was box breathing, which we're all,
Box
it's pretty
breathing, I do
common.
too, actually. Yeah.
And I started to do that because I would say like sometimes I can feel well before I'm gonna get in an excited state, or you can just cut the tension in the room. A lot of times I was involved with, unfortunately, higher profile, if you will, like terminations and stuff. So I'd have to deliver a lot of that stuff. And it was, you know,
Oh,
you really feel bad for the person and it can be very emotional.
yes.
So I had to like really practice on things, yes, for myself, but more out of respect to them as just a human being. Like even if I didn't know them that well, but had to kind of deliver the
Right.
change,
Really
it was,
awful news.
yeah. So it was like I remember though, like having to like go through that, and they would do that like those coaching sessions of how to use these things like box breathing, or it wasn't specifically what you're using that for with the brain exercise, but it was something to lower the stress response, which was definitely definitely very helpful, as far as like really just being respectful to the person that you're interacting with and trying to help de-escalate, what regardless of what the situation was. It was definitely helpful, but anyways, I got us off track. So what's the next one?
No, I think actually I do a lot of box breathing and just breathing exercises to improve brain like the oxygen flow, and then also to reduce anxiety, which all impacts our brain and our cognitive ability. So, and emotional, like you're saying. So it's like we're working on our brains, but we're working on so many other different parts. So,
Yeah, and a lot of people like they get maybe the people need this. I don't know, but when they think of like meditation, they think of like way out there, like what we all picture when we think of the word meditation, right? The traditional picturing. But I would say for me, exactly, like for me, which as I'm saying this, I'm reminded of how I need to do it more. But for me, it's like I had a great routine for a while where I would just stretch and close my eyes and like no, you know, push the phone off to the side. And that just doing that was really, really helpful as far as like preparing for sleep and trying to unpack the day a little bit, because I just happen to have probably an unhealthy response to stress, and it's
yeah.
actually one of the things I got certified to do was to be a chaplain, because I handle tragic events very, very well when they
Wow,
happen. So
that's
I
fascinating.
thought I would use that, but then it'll show up and manifest in other ways a week
Of
later, a
course.
month later, where it's not sleep, or I just feel way off. And I'm like, oh, it's because I didn't really address anything. I just blocked it out, which is
Yeah.
not great either.
Push it
So
aside.
typical guy, right? So yeah, I found that if I don't have intentional things layered in, and I'm not perfect. Like I've been, definitely I'll wait way too long, or my wife will be like, hey, we're going to address this. We're going on a couple weeks here. You're a little off, you know, and I'm saying that kindly. I'm definitely more than a little off when those things happen. But I find all these things really just practices so simple and fascinating to help. Um, but yeah, what else? I see a couple others you have. So I
Oh, I
might
have
not
so
fail the,
many.
what's the alternating tags? I think I won't fail that one, right? Is that one here?
Wait. Oh my gosh. This one where you're like circling and tapping at the same time.
Oh, I thought there was an easier one I saw. No, okay. So
But that one's, no, you're doing good. Just
so you
tap with, you got to tap with one and then circle with the other.
oh, oh man, yeah, fine motor
You
skills,
see,
right?
like your brain is like, hold on, what are we doing? This is not the usual. Like that's what we want to do, especially with AI right now. We have got to go back to working our brains in different ways. And
What
then you
here,
alternate the different one.
let me do this one really quick. Let me pull this up. I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna cheat.
Okay,
So
oh, the
what about
alternating taps.
so what was the alternate? What was that one?
Oh,
We got a couple here.
oh.
You're showing a couple different ones on this clip. And so for those who aren't listening on audio, there's a post where
So which one do you want to, you're saying this one?
sure, we'll start with that one.
That one's great. Yeah, this is pretty easy. You just tap,
Tap,
tap.
tap,
Yep.
tap, tap. This sounds like something like girls will do. They'll
It's
have me
actually
do.
great for children too. And it's so fun for them because they love to do this kind of stuff. And it helps them like in moments of like where you need to like de-escalate something. You know what I mean?
No, that makes sense.
There you
Tap.
go. You're doing it.
You gotta think. You can't think of the other stuff. Because I remember I'm gonna go
Present.
little bit on a tangent, but I remember at the time years ago, I just had the bright idea. I think I'm gonna start getting into swimming. And I'll never forget no electronics. And I had to focus because I was terrible at it. I had to focus so much on the stroke and the breathing that it was therapeutic
Mm,
for me. Like even like a 20-minute swim, I was like, whoa. For those out there, if we don't edit this part out, had a little technical difficulties, but we're back. We are
We are
ready to
back.
roll. We are back. So the internet didn't like that we were improving our minds. The AI didn't like it. So it jumped in and said, oh no, the humans are getting
Wait,
smart.
yes.
So it jumped in and shut us down. I probably shouldn't joke about that. That's like
It
the meme.
really did.
I
I
don't know
was
if you
like,
ever see the meme where
I
it's
can't
like
handle this.
they have one of those like Terminator memes where it says like the robot says this guy's okay because he always said please and thank you with his prompts. So it's like I'm always like, can you do this for me, please? Like
Yeah,
just remember me in 5 years when Skynet comes.
that's hilarious.
But I don't know, might not be laughing in a few years. I don't know. We'll see. But
We'll see. Who
we gotta have
knows?
fun while we can, I guess.
Right?
All right. So the a lot of the memory recall hand exercises, they're helping with protect against dementia, Alzheimer's, helping with memory recall. Obviously, we were talking about like there's clearly because of the hyper focus, like a stress reduction that's happening. Are there any other benefits maybe I'm missing with doing some of these practices?
No, like we were talking about also emotional, right? Because we're reducing stress with how sharp our brains feel. We are talking about the body whispers before. Brain fog is another one. I was like, I'm gonna miss so many, but brain fog is another one. We think that it's totally normal when really it's not. So it's helping with just every single part of the brain and our cognitive abilities, how sharp we feel, our memory, recall, really all of it. It's pretty fascinating.
I'm going to put out a request just in case the women can follow the 3 different hand ones in this reel, but for the men, I think just to be fair, I think you should cut it into 3 different reels. Because I'm like, wait, I'm on the backwards too with index crossing. Wait. I wasn't ready for that one.
Okay,
So what
no, I love the feedback. I could definitely do that for sure.
so we're doing what is this one now? I just want to just for those
Yes,
this one
the where you switch. This one takes a
switch.
minute. Oh, you're getting it.
Oh,
So you got to do 2 fingers in one. So it's like
yep,
there, and then you fist, and
close.
then you switch.
Ooh, man, you would think it's like easier, but oh yeah, I screwed it up again. Ooh,
I know. your brain starts to be like, what is happening? What are we doing?
Oh, there's going to be all
And
kinds of comedic reels that are going to come out of this. I can already see it.
yep. And then you're getting like you're opening up both the brain and the left hemisphere. So it's pretty cool stuff. And it's picking up. A lot of women are understanding. I just love this so much because longevity is really becoming such a hot topic in whatever age you are on, because people are starting to realize like, oh, this is why I want to feel good. Like there's more to just like, I want to look good. It's actually like, oh no, I want to live well for as long as possible.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't know if you have this somewhere, I'm sure you do, but just overall for brain health, kind of combating against cognitive decline, we've covered a lot of ground so far today, but if you were to high point it, we've already talked about nutrition, sleep, stress management. You'd have some of these activities like these exercises 2 to 3 minutes a day. Is there anything else that you could maybe that we haven't covered that you could think of that you would put into that approach?
Yes. I would say, of course, exercise. We haven't touched much on that, but it's so incredibly important, and especially strength training, which I do think and believe that it has picked up a lot. People are starting to understand like Pilates is maybe just not enough. Pilates is amazing. Okay. It challenges my body and I need it. I know it's wonderful, but I also know that as we get older, we need, for our bones, right? Like strength training is really good for our bones. As we get older, we need our strength. Like we need our like physical ability to be able to also not have to rely on walkers, on wheelchairs, on all of the things that I did see in, I feel like it was like lifetimes ago now, but
Right.
like physical, we need to work on our physical, like walking more, right? Like everybody talks about 10,000 steps a day, and it's so true. Like you do need to just be moving as much as possible. And I know it's really hard for women and men who sit on a computer all day long, but it's like, how can you just switch up your day? Like not only are you working on your physical, but you're also working on your brain, right? Because it's like doing things differently than you're used to. You're working on your cognitive ability as well, and you're enhancing your brain. So that and sleep is incredibly important, right? Because it helps with our overall health, and how we show up emotionally, how we actually show up physically. Because if we're not feeling good, if we're tired, we're more likely to not want to do anything that makes us feel better. And I see this time and time again, like the less sleep people get, like the more they go into old habits. So
Yeah.
there's just, I feel like when it comes to health and longevity, there's not one single thing that can, even though they're just all so important. Like it's
Yeah.
like an overall umbrella that like gets us to feeling better, right? And like this more, like we talked about earlier, it's like the more you slowly start to implement like walking after a meal, then you start to feel good and you're like, wait a second, I want a little bit more of this. Like maybe I should incorporate some breathing before I go to sleep so I sleep better. Maybe the water in the morning before the coffee is just slowly. It's not, what's great about it is that it's never too late to start.
Sure.
And I believe that the more you start to implement one thing, the more like you slowly will start to want to implement things in other parts of your life.
Yeah. No. And there's a couple things you're discussing there. One of them being exercise, and I think there's definitely a ton of utility information out there about that. But I think looking at the combination of all the above is the right approach, but also starting where you are, and then building from there. Because a lot of people think, as you mentioned, like maybe they don't exercise at all, and it's really intimidating to do that. It's like, well, can you start with body weight or some bands? Like just getting your body to in a control. Like I used to always talk about, back in the early 2000s, I got into training, and that's what I went to school for was, first was kinesiology and health. And it was like the study of human movement, basically. And it was always, how can we do a movement in a controlled environment, like a gym with different equipment to simulate everyday life, but make it more difficult in the controlled environment. So we decrease risk of injury, but we make you perform better. It's no different than like in football, like coach football. So like a guy pushing a sled, they make the sled that much harder than pushing a man in a game or whatever. They're trying to simulate things. It's the same way in exercise, like simulate that movement pattern so that later in life your body's more adaptable to it. So I think there's a lot of utility to that. And I think sometimes people think they associate a lot with it's happening less and less, but they associate a lot with exercise, specifically lifting weights, with a look. And there's benefits.
Mhm.
Who doesn't want to look healthier or more fit? But there's a lot of functionality, and as you were just mentioning, stress reduction and brain function too, because you have to really focus in if you're trying to do a specific movement pattern. So
Absolutely. I know. It's like everything that is healthy in your life, there's so much more to it that you are like you're adding years to your life without you even knowing,
mhm.
because it's not like we just mentioned about a certain look. It's about like mobility. It's about being able to carry your own grocery bags when you're older and not having to rely on, you know, nursing care, like having to live in a facility. So it's like the things that we don't think about now because we take for granted our ability to do things, right? Because we kind of think that we're just unstoppable in a way, and like we think it's so far away, but it's really not.
Yeah, and I wanted to one more area I just wanted to hit. I know we've covered a lot of ground, but you had a series of content related to getting my husband healthy again, and it was like for his longevity. So, can you walk through? I guess first, because you laughed as I said that, so I'm sure there's some fun in that. What are some things? What was that experience like for you? How has it helped you as a coach? And
Um,
what did you guys focus on? I guess all of the above. We'll just let you talk through that.
yes, we were supposed to start back up in September, but we couldn't. So and I actually tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, I'm literally adding years to your life without you even knowing, with like all the little things that I do in the background. But um, we were so funny because we're like so different when it comes to our nutrition. And he was an athlete his whole life. So exercise is so important to him. And it's so funny. He always says like the more I exercise, like it makes me want to eat better and be just happier and healthier. But he does just has really ingrained habits that we're trying to break, and it's hard. And I see it. It's actually like humbled me when it comes to like coaching, because I really do see how like his environment, like it's a very healthy environment. Like the foods that we have in our kitchen are very intentional. We have, areas setting up of like, where we exercise, like we're a very active family in general. But even like he just travels for work a lot. He's in a high stress job. So like old habits are really just they take a long time. And so yeah, so we're back in like the old habits right now, and it has humbled me too, to the point where I see like just like human psychology, where like you can't force somebody to change unless they really want to, unless they have that why. So I try not to push it. Like even with our content, I'm like, we're supposed to do this in September, but I have to wait for him to be the one that's super motivated. And it's hard, like as like, because you're like a family unit. And it's so funny because I get so mad at him all the time when he brings things in. Like even for my birthday, he was so sweet. He like baked me a quiche for breakfast, like he just like healthy things. And I looked in the freezer and it was like this I came with a shell that had like, it was like bioengineered food. And I was like, you gave me GMOs for my birthday. So I'm like,
Nice.
it's the thought that counts, I guess. So it's like I'm constantly humbled in that sense, and I also do appreciate that he brings balance to like our children as well, because like I also don't want like their life to be too rigid,
Sure.
because that can create other problems. And so yeah, it's been a very humbling experience. It's funny because then we joke about it too a lot. And he's always like, I'm just blessed to have you as my wife. So
There you go. There you go. Yeah. And
yeah,
then, how's the Chick-fil-A working out?
it's still happening. It's still happening. I still see it. And I just have to bite my tongue and celebrate the little wins,
There you go. There you go. Yeah, there's definitely a fun mix. I would say in our family as well, to where it's definitely
Okay, good. Not just
my
us.
yeah, no. It's definitely like there's things that I should do more of, like on the probably like the mental health side and decompression, and there's stuff like where we're 14 years now, so we're kind of in that getting in a little more of a rhythm as far as the nutrition stuff. So I think we do pretty good, but definitely my wife's the one bringing the fun and being like, "Look, give me that look." Like I have a hard time saying no to my daughters too, but then we tried to start reframing our discussions around food about like, well, remember you're an athlete now. Like,
Mm,
is this going to fuel you as an athlete versus like good and bad food? And then every once in a while, I get the look like, let the kid have a little ice cream. I'm like, all right,
totally.
So she's like, she played in 4 games over the weekend in a tournament, like, and her friends are getting ice cream. Like, okay. But it's just, it's just, yeah, because it's their little bodies, like that mindset of, oh, they'll just burn it off. It's like their bodies are so small. Sure, they're active, but the amount they burn, is not going to be anywhere near in most cases to an adult moving as much as they do. Like what the energy it takes to move an adult body, I guess, versus a child. It's just, I just did, some general like, um, just generally like ran like roughly like, okay, just how many calories they burn during these activities. And then like one sitting of something that's reasonable that we all would consume with as a snack or a treat, I should say, with your kids. And it was just like, holy crap, this is like a full day worth of calories in this one little sitting. So I think it's just being
Yeah.
mindful and finding the right balance, as you mentioned. So
I know, and it's hard, especially like we're in this industry and we know so much, right? And you obviously, as a parent, want the absolute best thing for them, but then like restriction, and you hear about it time and time again. And I've seen it with clients too, just how much like restriction becomes another form of problem. But you do start to see, you're just like, gosh, like, especially like the norm with sports. You're talking about sports. I have a little athlete too. And like when they bring the snacks and stuff, it's always like the Gatorade and the, like the chip, like it's never like these nutrient dense foods that they actually need after burning so much. So it's a balance. And then for me, I'm like, in my mentality, I'm like, well, I keep it so good at home that it's great for like when that, like the sports and the stuff, like that's where they get like their balance.
yeah, no, we had an event this weekend and the girls could bring their friends to it. My youngest had a soccer tournament, and my wife bought like the healthy version of a Capri Sun. It's like super watered down, and
That's
every
me.
kid separate as they sipped it, they like sipped it and like,
They
this is
hate
watered
it.
down like instantly. Like I'm like, yeah, a little bit. And I have my 2 girls. One can tell if I put it like literally a teaspoon of protein. She can taste it, and the other one is like I can put a full scoop. She doesn't even pick up on it.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to sneak things into their stuff. Like, hey, want a little protein there? Like, no, Dad, get away. I'm like,
I
all right,
know.
honey. So I'll pick my battles. We'll keep working through it. But
100%. It's so funny. I am that mom too, that like the other day after flag football, I brought like the bananas and I brought like the energy drink that's like the healthier form. And then I brought like chicken sticks and like not one person ate the banana. So
good times, good times. Well, we need, we got to provide balance, so we're all about inclusion, right? We got to include all the foods and all that stuff. But well, I really appreciate you joining us today. And I know you're busy between the educational content you're putting out there, the all the coaching you're doing, really exciting stuff you have. For those out there, we'll have a lot of this in the show notes, but can you tell everybody just kind of where they can find you and get some more information?
Yeah. So my social media is the big where I do most of my content. So on Instagram at longevity health coach underscore. Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
I do most of my content on there. I am on Facebook as well as Alejandra Longevity, or maybe it's under Alejandra Ruff. And then I'm trying to pick up on YouTube, which is Longevity Health Coach. There's so many ways. Then there's Substack. I'm trying to pick that back up too. It's called the Body Whisperer Substack. So I talk a lot. I try to get into more detail about longevity and not just like nutrition and exercise. It's like it goes deeper because I do believe like living a very long life, it's more than just what we eat and then how much we exercise. It's like a lot of like, especially women, when it comes to like people pleasing, like how we handle relationships, that's so important too, because our emotional life has a lot to deal with like our outer life and how that portrays. And then you can also, so for working with me, so social media, I'm all over. And then working with me, I have like this one-on-one coaching that I just started to open up where I do like 40-minute sessions for brain enhancement. Then I have a course, like a lifetime course where it's for longevity for women, and it helps you with like nutrition and lifestyle. And you have full access for the rest of your life with it. I also have an ebook. If you're somebody more visual and you want something quick, you can find it on Amazon, and you can also find it on my website. It's like longevity hacks for women. It's called Longevity from a Women's Perspective, because I do believe after I actually followed men's longevity, like biohacking guides for a very long time. And honestly, and they're great. There's so many great people out there, but it depleted me so much. Like my hormones were actually not balanced at all. I had awful, like I started to get, even though I'm like so incredibly healthy, like I started to get like breakouts all along my chin for a very long time. And then I also was just like highly stressed. So I used to take the advice from men and it just did not work out for me. So that's where Longevity from a Women's Perspective ebook was born. And then I also so I mentioned the coaching, the course, the ebook, and then I already mentioned Substack, but if you subscribe to my Substack, you will get a lot of beautiful articles that I write every single week.
Awesome. Well, yeah, appreciate you you coming on, and for everybody out there too, if you look in the show notes, we'll have links to everything that Alejandra's putting out there, as well as on her link tree, and Instagram is a great resource with everything she just mentioned with direct links too. So and for everybody out there, if you have questions, comments, put them in the comment section, send them in, whether it's audio or if you're watching this in video. We'll gladly answer your questions. And then if it's something, we'll help put you in touch with Alejandra specifically if there's something she can help you with directly. And I guess that about does it. So we'll have a lot of good laughs from this episode, and I'm sure our editing team will have fun cutting some of that out. So
the big where my computer just froze. Thank
well,
you
I meant
so
the hand
much for
stuff too.
having
I was
me.
referring to that. Like they'll have a fun time pulling reels and making fun of me, but it's all good.
Oh
But
yeah.
we'll make sure
That too.
the
I
computer
cannot
freezing is
wait to
out
see
too.
that actually. Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
All right, pleasure. We'll see you. Take care, everybody.
See you soon. Bye.